So, trying to get the screen to share here, guys. I can see it really good on my computer.
I can see it.
You can see the contract up?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're good to go then. So, how many of you guys have filled out one of these contracts before? Okay, that's good. And sounds good. So, what would you like to go over? We can start from top to bottom. We can go each page at a time. Do you got any specific questions you want me to go over? Do you want me to kind of go through what I go through when I talk with folks? Pretty open here to how you want to cruise through it.
I well, just my 2 cents. Yeah, just a real common sense approach of how you when you sit down with somebody, how you explain all these, because there's a lot of stuff there, but it's just sort of an explanation of each major section or whatever each page, and then maybe common errors.
Sure, sure, we can do that. So typically when I send out this document, and it's pronounced Callan.
Yes.
Okay, typically when I uh, shoot this stuff out, I always start out with the agency agreement. And again, this is the packet that you can pull off from the office, and I can email you this packet when we're done too if you don't have it. Easy enough, Callan. Um, but typically, I start out with here where we're supposed to start out and talk about agency. And I just talk about basically there's four people you're going to get involved with or can get involved with the transaction, and that's you as the seller's representative, and an agent from another company that's going to represent the buyer. Then there's dual agency where you're going to represent both sides. And people say, well, what does that mean? Well, when you get into dual agency, I say it's like you're kind of like playing a basketball game at that time, is the analogy I use. You're no longer telling the one team or coaching the one team or you're coaching the other team. You're kind of the referee on the floor, making sure all the rules are getting followed. Okay, because you can't really favor one team or the other team when you're in dual agency. But what you can do is make sure the two parties are communicating better because there's only one person in the center, which the messages don't get dropped, things stay up front, and you're closer together while you're negotiating the deal if you're on both sides of it. And in what I do in commercial, uh, more times than not, you end up being a dual agent for the buyer and the seller. That's just the nature of commercial, the way it works. And then the other one is just the facilitator. And the example I use on the facilitator is says, hey, I'll fill these forms out for you, and I'll submit them, and you'll pay me a smaller fee. But heaven forbid if anything goes sideways because I'm not involved after that. So you're all on your own if something goes sideways after the deal's all put together. So that's kind of the four different ways I go about talking about agency. What examples do you use?
I thought you said dual agency was if you're representing the buyer and the seller, but I thought it was also uh, when another agent from our same office is representing one party.
Yep, and that can happen too. If there's two agents from the same broker that happen to be representing the same property, one is on the buyer, one is on the seller. You're correct.
Okay. All right.
Yep, yep. That could happen, and now when we're joining offices, there's a bigger chance of that happening. So see how that works out. Okay, then there's some information on there where all the bad people live. I don't dwell on that very often or go into depth. I just tell them here's a number you call if you want to find out who the bad people are in the neighborhood. And then this form here, the KW Select Affiliate Arrangement. I just explain to people that KW is a big company and they've got an interest in that particular title company. Not that we're going to use that title company, but we have an interest in it because we're a big company. We have to disclose that to any prospective buyers. So I kind of fluff over that one pretty quick. I don't drill down into a lot of details. go. Okay, and this one here is a little different. Um, and we talk about, specific things for each particular seller on this form, where you got your, waiver and acceptance and disclosure. So typically you want people to have open houses. I mean, that's how you attract buyers in, or at least get traction on the internet, is through open houses. And they can have open houses or not. Thing about open houses nowadays is with the pandemic, we got to be a little more careful and explain to them, some of the additional risks that are involved right now with doing that for, themselves or the people coming into the home. So we got that deal going on there. And come on screen here. That's fast. And next one is multiple offers. What do you do when you talk to people about multiple offer situations?
Hope you're not asking me, because even though I said I filled one of these out before, I'm still a new agent. I've sold 2 homes in 2 years, 3 homes in 2 years.
Oh, you're an expert then. Okay, well, I just asking, So multiple offers are, it can go either way. It's really up to the person and their personality of how they like to deal with those kind of situations. A lot of times, I tell people that you really don't have to disclose. If this person wants to make a good offer, you just say, well, make your best offer. And if that's your best offer, that's your best offer. And then tell the other guy, well, make your best offer. And instead of inciting, a competition for the property, you just ask these people for their best offers, and you move forward. The other side of that is to disclose, well, we've already got an offer on the table, and someone say, well, we really want this home, so we are going to go higher. Okay. I've had other cases where buyers have said, no, we're not interested because we don't want to get into, multiple offer situation where we're competing with somebody else on the home. And so it can go either way. It's what the comfort level is of the people that you're signing up. Some people say, well, I always sign up to disclose multiple offers because it drives the price up. And again, like I said, sometimes you sign up for that and you disclose and it drives people away. So it's a balance. It's a balance, and I kind of try to let the people answer that question. Which would they prefer? Because each seller is different. Each seller is motivated by different things, and wants to deal with the public in different ways. So that's a multiple offer. Home warranty is pretty straightforward. Whenever I get into a dual agency situation on a home, I always say, well, I'm going to get a home warranty put on it because I don't want to be the one getting the calls afterwards. And something happens that the dishwasher goes out or the refrigerator craps out after the sale, or the washer starts leaking. I just say, hey, you got a home warranty. I paid for that. I don't want to hear about they didn't disclose this or that wasn't this. And I just spend a little extra money out of the commission and put a home warranty on it when I'm in dual agency. Because you're the one that's going to get the call. 9 times out of 10, they're going to call you after closing and say, hey, we got this issue here now. And this is just a way to, for your business to not have to spend time on that problem and be able to search for other business.
So you do that on your own, and what's the range
Somewhere between $495 and $595, depending on what company it is. So you can say, well, I'll take the risk. I've sold enough homes over the years where, sometimes you're okay. And then other times you can say, hey, all you got to do now is, call the service guy and we're good. That's if you're in dual agency. If you're just selling a home, for someone else, for the seller, and the buyer decides not to, put a home warranty on it, well, that's the buyer's issue then. But you can offer them, a home warranty. Sometimes people think homes sell faster if you list a property and you tell the homeowner, well, go ahead and just put a home warranty on it, or you're going to pay for the home warranty, and you just got to figure it in as cost of the sale. The $500 for the home warranty. And people go, hey, it comes with the home warranty. It's like selling a used car with a 1-year warranty on it. People are just a little more comfortable, with that property then. So it might sell a little easier. And then broker admin commission. Typically, the questions that'll come up on that, Callan, is what is this fee for? Okay. And my explanation is if something happens to me tomorrow and I'm no longer with Keller Williams for whatever reason, if something happens with your transactions 3 or 5 years from now, you don't have to chase me down, you chase Keller Williams down. And they're the ones responsible for taking care of anything that might happen further on down the road. And because they're the broker in the situation and they're responsible for the transaction. And that fee is just to keep your files around, and if something comes up, they get some money to cover their costs to represent you. And our fee is typically a lot lower than anybody else's, but I just try to go over these things and not dwell on them a long time. Just say, yeah, it's just a fee. We got to pay for our brick and mortar, and carry your files, and the state makes us do this kind of stuff. And so we have to keep them around, and so we got to charge a fee for that. Okay. Now this form here can get a little more complex. You probably haven't filled many of these out, right? You only sold a couple homes or listed a couple homes over the last few years?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. So the form is pretty, self-explanatory. You'll go down through a few things on the form that can be a little trickier to fill out sometimes. The listing office and the location of the property is usually pretty straightforward. Finding the property ID is pretty straightforward. Sometimes you're selling multiple property IDs, and if you do, you got to kind of figure out how you want to handle that. And then, looking up if there's assessment pendings or not, you just got to pull the county tax records on that particular property. So you go to the county website. Sometimes you can just use Northstar MLS and bring up the tax records there and see if there's anything going on in that particular, for that particular property. Then if there's property IDs, some people have, an extra lot they're going to sell with, or well, that's typically the case, or extra couple lots that they own along with their property that you're going to sell on that. Depending on the situation, sometimes selling that lot with the property is a good idea. In other locations where if it's a big enough lot, you may want to say, well, maybe we'll just list your house here and then we'll list your lot separately if it's got road access and can be built on or something like that. So you got to take in a couple things into consideration when you're doing just that. And then the fun thing is always what the listing price. Even in the few houses you've probably sold or worked on, what the people want and what the house is really worth sometimes varies. And so you got to do your best job possible pulling together your comps. And in today's market, it seems like comps keep going up every day because the market just keeps creeping up and up and up. And part of that is just demand, and part of that now is replacement cost. I talked with my brother-in-law. He does a lot of side construction work. This spring, a 2x4 was $2.50. That same 2x4 right now is $7.50. Gone up 2.5 times since this spring. So just the physical cost of lumber now is driving home prices up. And so that's an interesting thing there. So there's listing paperwork, expiration date, buyer broker's comp. You always want to make that is straightened out. Office usually pays out 2.7. We try to list properties at whatever you can negotiate, but the office kind of has a policy if it's going on the MLS. We're not a discount broker, so we usually pay out 2.7% to another broker if they bring a buyer in. And let's see, your listing agent ID, you've got that. Your name, you can figure that all out, your phone number and all that stuff. Kind of box, lockbox you can put on there. Then down in 279, you got your list type of contract that you're going to have. And construction status is pretty straightforward. And what else we got down here that's a little trickier? New construction, if you're going to sell a new house, you got to dig into who the builder is, model, hours like that. And let's see, internet. This is always interesting because you do want to display it on the internet. You do want to put the address on the internet. Allow auto evaluations and allow customer comments. Typically, we check those no, but with Facebook and the other sites out there now, that kind of stuff just gets propagated out there anyway, whether you want it to or not. And Zillow picks up stuff off realtor.com, and they will be kind enough to give you their evaluation of the property, whether you check that box yes or no or not. And then if you're selling a condo, you got the association fees and the association management company, insurance fees. And that's always a trickier one, trying to get all that, all the condo docs in place, because all the associations know how to charge the seller for all those docs right now. And they're not afraid to say, do you want them today, tomorrow, or a week from tomorrow? And the price scales accordingly. And then here's a sheet here with, you know, getting the dimensions of the approximate dimensions of living room, dining room, bedrooms. It's always best to remeasure everything if you're going to list someone's house. Not to go in and take, you know, if it was listed before, just grab the last person's stuff. You should actually go out and measure each room, take a look at it, because the new seller may have did some remodeling. The rooms may have not been measured exactly the first time around. So make sure you take the time out and, you know, go measure the house out real good, so you get an accurate description for the new buyers. And then land, a lot of times you can just take the lot measurement right off the tax records, figure that out. The lot dimensions can be kind of goofy if you get a pie-shaped lot, so just kind of do the best you can with what you got there, please. The structure, it can get kind of, I won't say messy, but you can get kind of interesting measuring some of these houses that are, the foundation is one side and then there's hangovers. You know, when they build the house, they got overhangs on the next floor. Some of the basement's finished, some of the basement's not finished, and so forth. So you really got to look through the house, figure out what you feel is a finished area and what isn't a finished area, because they want total square footage, then they want finished, you know, finished square footage. So when they can figure it up, you can see the house is really this big, but only this much of it's finished. And that happens a lot when you've got someone that's, you know, got a split level and they bought it, fixed the top up when they moved in, and they never finished the basement. So instead of the house is just this size, they always talk about what's the total size of the house now. So it gives the buyers a better idea of the total size of the house. And then there's all kinds of the style of the house. The style of the house will make a difference in some areas. So make sure you really put down what style of the house it is. Because when you go to do your comparables too, you know, a split level sells for a much different price than a modified two-story. And so you got to be careful when you pull your comps. You just can't say, I want prices of all the houses that have sold within a mile of this house. You really want to kind of go through and cherry pick then, is it really a modified two-story like mine is? Because that sells at a different price per square foot than say a split level will sell slightly. And so when you're doing your comparables, someone says, well, so-and-so's house sold for that. And you can go, yes, but they have kind of a different model of house. You know, it's like selling, you know, a Chevy versus a BMW. They get priced a little bit differently because of the quality or how they're built. So you got to be careful on that. Accessibility is pretty straightforward. most houses have air conditioning in Minnesota. And exterior stuff, you just kind of look around the house and, you know, kind of check all boxes that are applicable for that. So that's pretty easy to do. And the same with the you know, the heating. Make sure you understand that. The big thing in heating is, you know, if you run into a house in Minneapolis and you got hot water boilers, you may not have central air. Most of the stuff in the suburbs got, you know, forced air with air conditioning. And, you know, there might be a wood stove or a gas fireplace or electronic fireplace nowadays too, very popular. So pick that out. Then zoning, you know, make sure you understand what the zoning is. Typically it'll be residential single family, but there's different cases. There has been residential homes that are actually in commercial areas that never got converted to buildings. So just make sure you kind of characterize it right. And city sewer and water, most of that, you'll find that in the cities. When you get out in the suburbs or get out further in the country a little bit, then you'll have, you know, septic and well. And then there's different disclosures that you got to have the seller fill out for septic and well problems. Not problems, but to define what the septic and well is. And those are a whole nother set of forms. So when you get out a little further. And let's see, optional information, you kind of go through there and just check, you know, some of the boxes that are appropriate. And nowadays with the internet and, you know, Wi-Fi thermostats and Wi-Fi refrigerators and security systems and stuff, you want to make sure you check all that stuff so it's accurate for the buyer if they're looking at the listing contract and want a bunch of details. So typically the more details you put in, the more interested a buyer might be because they want something with the security system or they want something that has Wi-Fi, everything nowadays, so they can run the home off their phone when they're away or check the home or their security systems over their phones when they're away. Yeah, construction materials. Again, this is all optional stuff here, but I usually go through and check the major ones. So it just gives a better definition when people look things up online. And same
Hey,
all.
Tim,
Yes.
can you, so remind me again where because part of this form was a Keller Williams form with that affiliated business thing.
Yeah.
Is this form on Instinet forms on the MLS or is it on one of the Keller Williams?
All these forms, these are the affiliated, these KW specific forms
Yeah.
will be on, they'll come up under Instinet, but they'll have the KW branding on them. Is the way that works.
So you get this whole form. It's what is it? 54 pages. You get this off of Instinet form, and it'll say Keller Williams listing agreement.
Yeah, it'll say that in the folder there, KW specific forms, and this will be the listing packet. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. And then it just goes down through, you know, keeps asking you these optional questions, patios, amenities, stuff like that. And so that's the MLS input form. And then here's where you come up with your nice statements, you know, you put in there all the real nice stuff of the house and, you know, try to be specific, keep things to the house. Don't get yourself in trouble with saying, you know, great neighborhood, but we're only looking for people that make $500,000 or more to live here. You know, you got to be very, very open, very general, and say, you know, just real nice comments about the house, specifically about the house, kind of thing. Financial remarks, you know, once in a while you can go, you know, sellers have an assumable loan, which is great. Maybe the seller would accept a contract for deed, things like that, Callan, in the financial remarks. Kind of thing. And let's see here, what do we got here? This is single family showing instructions. Basically, you know, you can ask the owners whether, do you want to get text message every time there's a showing request? Do you want me to text you? Do you want the office to text you? Do you not want text? Do you just want me to call you? Do you want me to email you if there's a showing request? And see if people are comfortable with, different age groups are comfortable with different ways of levels of communication. just step through that, make sure you get everything in there, filled out. And I don't think there's anything else really on that form that's too much. And then post sign, you know, if you're gonna have the company come out and put you know, a metal post in and one of your sales signs, fill this guy out, and then they charge you a fee to come out and put your sign in for you and take it down when you're done. You just call them up. So just saves you time and money. You got to call ahead, make sure they get the lot marked. So, you know, we don't dig into any power lines. So call the utility companies or 811, go for one. And they mark the lot to make sure they know where all the power lines and utilities are. So the guy that puts the post in knows where to do that. If you don't do that, then the guy won't put the post in unless they're marked from the post company. There's two different seller disclosure forms here, and they're used in two different cases typically, Callan. This one here, the alternative disclosure form, this is for like if the kids end up selling the property for mom and dad and they haven't lived there for 10 years, they fill the form out to the best of their knowledge and their ability, but they really don't know what the house, if there's this happens or that happens, you know. So they got to fill out some general stuff saying, do they know is there underwater storage tanks? Is there any storage tanks on the property? Does it have well and septic, or is it hooked up to city sewer and water, kind of thing. But that's for a seller disclosure of that way. This may be also a seller disclosure to say, hey, I bought this as a rental property 10 years ago. I've never lived in the house, but I'll tell you, this is what I know about it. Okay. So the seller alternative is for when you haven't really lived in the house. Now, some sellers will say that I want to fill this out, but when you fill this out as a seller, then it kind of goes, what are you hiding if you're not willing to fill out the full disclosure? You know, are you trying to hide something from me? And that's the way I look at it. So if the sellers live there and been there, I always have them fill out the other one. But this one is used if the seller really hasn't lived in the house or the kids are selling the house for the parents. Okay. And then the questions are pretty straightforward. Water, you know, seller or waiver there. And then but you still got to disclose, is there, you know, a well, septic on the property. And there's a few things that you still have to disclose in this form. You know, do you know about some of this, radon, things like that. And these are the minimums that you have to have in there to get the, you know, to sell the house. Hey, where'd you go here? Oh. Uh-oh. Where'd me form go? Got that. Hold it. I lost my screen here just a second.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah?
Sorry if I missed it. When you were talking about the posts and calling 811, is that the agent's responsibility to call 811 for those markings, or does the post company take care of that?
I know the post company ain't going to come out until you do that. That's what I can tell you there. So whether you call it, the owner calls it, but someone's got to call them.
Great,
and I haven't had a post put in a long time, so I guess I'd have to get back to you on what the answer to that one is.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah?
Most of the time when we order them, if you check mark that on the box, you know, that you don't, they'll have Go For One come out and mark it
Okay.
for you.
Okay. The sign company will, Jerry?
Yep. We use Continental.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you just check mark it that it hasn't been marked yet.
Okay.
And then they say usually allow 1 to 2 days, 48 hours for Go For One to go out and mark it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yep.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, I don't know where the presentation went. Okay. So can you guys see this screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, just a second here. I got to get, bring the presentation up. I hit the wrong button here, so let me get back into that. Back into the PDF. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, let's see where we were at.
We were on seller's disclosure.
Yeah, scooting down there right now. Then you had a question on this, so yep. You check the box in that form, they'll fill it in for you. There we go. Seller disclosure. So yeah, again, the alternative is if you haven't lived in the house or the people haven't lived in the house, but there's still minimum requirements that someone's got to fill out on it. I'll try not to blow it off my screen here again this time. And what do we got? Yeah, you still got to talk about well, septic, and valuation exclusions, whether you're a foreign party. And what else? Minimum Met Lab at any time. Radon's a big thing in Minnesota. Okay, radon tests have or have not been done, kind of thing. Airport regulations. Okay, and may not be included. Water intrusion, mold, all that. So if you know the roof leaks, please tell the people. And again, they let you tell you about where the good people live in the neighborhood. Or you can have an inspector come in and you can do that. I've seen people do that, you know, I've said, well, just have a home inspector come in and do a pre-home inspection if you haven't lived there, you know, in 10 years, and then have this inspector just already call out all the stuff that he's going to call out and do it that way if you're not comfortable filling this form out either. So you can do it a couple different ways. Then we got radon disclosure, radon facts. We're going to see that form quite a bit here now. Okay, the good old estimate of proceeds. Again, you can pull this form off online, online form, the KW form. Kind of automatically fills itself out, which is pretty cool. I like that. Selling price, you know, you can put the, hey, this is our, you know, this is our target goal price. We'll say 450 kind of thing. And then you can say, but if you sold for 4.25 or for, you know, for 400 or, you know, put 475, 450, 425 and kind of give them a range of, if you sell at this price, what's your bottom line going to be? Because it changes a little bit in, you know, what your commission is. That changes the number a little bit. A lot of the other numbers stay the same. Your closing services, you know, stay pretty much the same. A lot of times, you know, I don't ask them what they owe on the house. So they got to kind of say, this is without this. So if we sold it for 450, took all of our fees out, you're going to come out at 379. Now, if you own $150,000 on the house, you got to kind of figure that in on your own, what your actual net's going to be. Or if they'll tell you, you can put it into the form, you know, right up here, what's your current loan, and the form will fill that all out for you. You know, selling price, present mortgage.
I got a question on,
Yeah.
somewhere it said document fee.
Yeah.
$46. So how many documents typically might there be? $46 is a lot.
Yeah.
I'm
So
guessing.
there's, to answer that, let's say that it's just a straight up, they've got one mortgage on the home. So they're going to have to file file that mortgage is going to be $46. And then they're going to have to file the tax fee, file the documents with the county. So you're going to be at $92. So it's typically, I put $92 in there just because there's going to be a couple documents that have to get filed.
Okay.
Now, if they've got a third loan on the property or a second mortgage or something, then that's going to be another $46 to file the document to clear that loan. So, or if they've got some liens on the property for some reason that's got to get sorted out, each one of them are going to be $46
Okay.
to fill out the form and get it sent in and get it cleared off. But typically I put down 92. And in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about a $450,000 home, say, at a 6% commission, the $24,000 commission is going to take up the brunt force of any of the cost. And the rest of the costs are, pretty minor to that. So you've got, the CD payoff, adjustment, contract for deed, if they're going to give them a contract for deed, a discount, and the number 7 mortgage carrier, I always put that $35 one in, line number 7. And if you're in a situation, and this has not been the market, and I think Jerry will agree to this, that sellers really aren't paying any buyer's cost right now, in this market because of the multiple offers. But in other markets, if the seller said, well, we're in a different market, you're going to have to offer some closing points to get people to come in, you would put the 2% or 3% they're offering there. So that pulls it off their net income then, Callan. Again, that's in line 10. Funding fee for DVA closing costs or miscellaneous financing. So if you're doing a veterans loan, there's some different fees there. So you got to find out if the loan's a VA loan or not, because the rules change a little bit on that. Association dues. So if you're at the middle of the month or wherever you are with your association dues, and someone's dues, I see a lot of them are up $200-300, depending on where you close. There could be $150 or $200 in association dues that you got to pay for that month if you're closing in the middle of the month. That you may have to pay out. Association prep letter. In getting the association documents, I've seen anywhere from $69 to $269. So you want to make sure that you kind of get that if it's a condo or a townhome that you're selling, that you get that number in there in the miscellaneous column someplace. And what else we got in here? Our broker admin fee, $389 or $399. Closing services fee, I usually put in $400. State deed tax is just a math problem there on the percentages. And abstract, updating, RPR fees and stuff. Again, I just throw like $300 in there. The recording fees, $92. And the balance of the real estate taxes are always a little tricky, depending on what time of the year you're in. And so you want to put some dollar value in there, because if you're closing closer to May, you got to pay all the way up to the end of May, kind of thing. If you're closing right after May, you don't have to pay as much, so it's kind of I always talk to title and say, what do you think the closing fees are going to be? The taxes are going to be if we close at this time on the deal. And then I kind of use that number because I always get that one messed up every time. But you want to make sure you get that in.
So if you pay in April, if you are going to close in April, you could, because the taxes are paid in arrears, right? So it could be 4 months, 4 or 5 months of taxes that they could owe, right?
You could owe, right.
Okay.
And that's what I say. So if you're closing at the end of May, you got the whole thing, or the beginning of May, you got the whole thing you're paying for. Whereas if you're closing in July, you've only got a little bit to pay for, kind of thing. So, and I always mess it up.
Title can give you a pretty good idea based on a projected closing date.
So, yeah. So I call title up and, if we closed on July 15th or, August 31st, what do you think the taxes are going to be on this property? And it takes them 2 seconds to give you that number on that property. So it just helps the people, figure another expense in there. And then number 27 gets interesting because if you get out in the country more so, and you got to do your well test and your septic test and your water tests and things like that, and certifications that it's up to code and stuff, you can start spending $300-400 on those tests to have people come out and do that. So in the city, it's not much because there's nothing going on. And then if you're actually going to have to get the property surveyed, you almost got to call the survey company up because, an in-town survey may be $450, whereas country land may be $2,500 if they got to go out and survey 40 acres. So if you think there's going to have to be a survey, and that can happen if someone says, well, we've got a 20-acre piece of property, but we want to sell the house and 10 acres and keep 10 acres. Well, what happens in that case then is you got to go to the county and say, county, I want to split this lot. You're going to have to go to a surveyor and have the lot surveyed so you can get new legal descriptions for lot 1 and lot 2. And then the county's going to come back and tell you that to split the lots, you got to pay the whole year's taxes in full right now. So not only do you get the survey cost, you now got to pay your whole year's taxes up front when you start messing around with splitting lots and things like that. So just a heads up. So if they say, well, we want to split it, you can go, that can be done, but there's going to be, it could be several $1,000s worth of expenses to split that lot at that point in time. And you just want to give them a heads up, and they say, well, what do you think? You go, well, I got to call the survey company and I got to, see what it's going to cost the survey. And then we got to get it, into the government. We got to get your taxes. So you can't really answer that question off the cuff. You got to go back and say, I need to do my homework so I get you an accurate estimate. Okay.
Hey, Tim, if a survey was recently done,
Yep.
can you use that, or how far back do you go back, or do you just have to get a new one altogether all the time?
Surveys typically go a year back.
Okay.
Just in general, it depends is it a real stable area, and it'll depend on the bank too. The bank, the banker may say, oh, you've got a survey from 2018, nothing's really gone out there. We can probably use that, or maybe just get it updated. We don't have to start fresh, So that's where you got to kind of talk with your lender a little bit, and the loan, and see what they want. But just a heads up when you start splitting lots when you are, doing this thing. Or the same thing is if you want to combine lots, you help someone get a property and they bought lot A and they bought lot B. And I ran into this recently. To get zoning to do what we want to do, we had to combine lot A and lot B. Well, the county come back and said, well, great, we'd be happy to do that for you. Get it surveyed, make sure we got accurate descriptions, and pay the taxes up. And then we'll merge the lots for you. So they charge you to merge them and they charge you to take them apart. Okay. So that's kind of a heads up thing on that. And let's see here, warranties, filing for well disclosure. If you're in the, again, if you're out in the country a little bit, you're gonna have to pay that $35. Local building inspections, truth of housings, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Bloomington, there's a whole list of them that say, yeah, you got to have a truth in housing before you put it on the market and available to everybody that comes through that house. You got to have a hard copy in the house. And I just make sure in that case, I get a supplement done and put it online too. So if something comes up that there wasn't one in the house because someone took them off from the last showing, you can go, yep, we got a supplement online. Just click on the supplements online for your truth in housing statement. So you got to pay attention to that because that's another $250, $350, $450, depending on where you are and what you are doing there, that the seller ends up paying just to put the house on the market. And the state likes a couple bucks for all the paper we burned up for the conservation fee. And then again, this spreadsheet just automatically does the math for you. So you just keep typing numbers in, and then cash to the seller is at that bottom line. Any questions on that one? Because a lot of people know what, at the end of the day, they want to know what line 35 is. Okay, they want to know what line number 1 is, and they want to skip down to line 35. And if there's any questions in the middle, we can certainly answer them for you. Okay, now we'll scoot on from here then. And again, this is just a description for all the different things in there from the estimate of proceeds. And certificate to withhold property from listing from North Star MLS. So this one is, you want to get the listing, and you want to get the listing locked down so it's under your name, you've got it, but you know that the house is going to need some work, you know, and you go, hey, we'll get it listed, we'll get it locked down, we'll start doing the work on it, but you need 2-3 weeks, a month to actually get this place ready to get on the market. So although we have it listed, we're going to withhold it from the MLS and not really market it, okay, to the general public while it's being fixed up to put on the market. And once you withhold this from the MLS, there's no putting it on Facebook. Maybe you can soft sell it in the office a little bit, but when you're withheld from the MLS, there's no showings because you withheld it from the MLS. And you got to be really fair about this form because they'll crack down on you pretty hard if there's any shenanigans going on in the background. If you get a listing and then you withhold it from the MLS, but then somehow you sell it, okay? And we had a conversation about that the other day. There's different agreements you may want to sign that just kind of bypass this whole thing. So just be careful if you get a listing and you're going to withhold it from the MLS that you don't try to pre-market it very hard, or you can get yourself in trouble and get fined pretty big. And they've been watching that, especially with all these, you know, pre-list or coming soon things. So just, you really got to understand that. And
Hey,
then
Tim, I got a question about that one. So if it's a 6-month listing agreement, way back in the start of this form, we sign the list date and the expiration date of the listing,
Yep.
but it's withheld for 30 days. Does that 30 days count towards the 6-month total list? Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And the reason with that is you go, hey, I want to get this listing signed so someone else don't kind of get talking to these people later on, you know, or, you know, their daughter comes up and their boyfriend has now got a real estate license and he wants to sell the place for them. So you kind of want to get it locked under contract, even though it may not be ready to come to the market. You see? So you want to withhold it. Or, you know, or if there's been a family issue and they say, hey, we don't want any showings now for a while, you know, we can you know, withhold it from the MLS or go temporarily not for showing, actually, you know, in this day and age. So then here's a North Star. Go ahead.
You can withhold it after it's gone live. In other words,
no, I think I'm wrong there. Once it's live, you can't withhold it then. That was a bad example I gave you.
What's temporarily not available then for sure? So that's still a live listing. They just each can't show it.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to go on this next form, Callan. I jumped the gun a little bit on that. Apologize.
All right.
So here's the North Star change form. So once it's listed, you can make changes to it, okay? You can change the price. You can update the contract from the old expiration date. You can get the contract renewed. And then down here, a status change. Temporarily not available for showing. So, you know, some people get into Thanksgiving and they go, I got all the family over, I don't want to show it. So we're just going to put it temporarily not available for showings, you see. So it still can be, you know, it kind of comes off the MLS as active, but if you want to search the MLS for temporarily not available for showings, you can do that. So it's still out there, but it's kind of hidden a little bit. But what happens so much in this day and age is when you got Zillow, Redfin, all the other sites, even if you put it temporarily not available for showings, it takes so long for the internet to catch up with that it kind of stays out there and lingers out there, okay? Because those sites just don't drop it off like they should right away, okay? So you still might get calls or inquiries about it when it's temporarily not available for showing. But again, if it's temporarily not available for showing, do not show it because you'll get your hand slapped pretty hard by the MLS for that, okay? So no shenanigans. That's my main rule of being the associate brokers. Don't put up with any shenanigans with this stuff. And play fair and play by the rules all the time. And what else we got on this form? Let me go up the top here. Oops. So yeah, sold, they like you to, you know, put it in with sold, what the terms are. And again, a lot of this is for their own internal tracking then when you start doing this kind of stuff. So they can start collecting a database and find out who's selling what and for all that. So again, the big thing with, you know, the change form, if it's temporarily not available for showing, it's being withheld from the MLS, or even with the coming soon, do not show the property, because you may get an agent that's calling you to say, oh, I want to get in, I want to get in, I want, you know, is there any way to get in? You go, no, it's in the status 0, end of conversation. Okay, well, we only want to take a peek. 0, no. Okay, because I don't want to see you guys get in trouble. And again, here's this coming soon thing. This went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And if you read the last line here, $1,000 is assessed to the listing agent, and coming soon status disqualifies the property from the status, and you can get fined $1,000. That hurts. So be very careful when you're withholding things from the MLS and when you're putting it in coming soon. And there's a limit of availability listing. You know, they got that, cannot exceed 21 days from the entry. So look through those forms, but you know, work with people and be very straightforward to people with the sellers and so forth. And then here's the full disclosure statement. You know, the main rule of this form, and the only rule of this form, is you don't fill it out. You can put the date and the address of the property on there, and after that, I don't want to see any of your ink on this form. Okay? Because you don't want to get in a situation where the agent helped me fill out the form, so if there was something wrong on the form, you know, there's this questionable gray area. So you guys can put the address in, the property is located at, city of, blah, 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 state of Minnesota. Anything after line 36, no ink. Is that understood? Thank you. And then you can go through and you can answer questions. If someone's got a clarity question or something like that, you can answer that question, but you don't check any of those boxes for anybody. That's just a sure way to get yourself in trouble at some point in time. And we like to avoid that. And there's just all kinds of general questions. You can read through it. It's pretty straightforward. Just make sure you've read through it. You know how to fill it out. You know what questions, you know, what an encroachment is, you know, what is a governmental requirement, you know, so you can answer the questions if someone asks you a question about it. And, you know, they'll ask you, well, the roof leaked 3 years ago. We had it fixed. It hasn't leaked since then. And you go, hey, that's great. Write it down. Okay. Well, it rained once, you know, 4 years ago, and the basement got some water in it. Write it down. Okay. On this form. Disclose, disclose, disclose. Because there's a major difference here in between residential and commercial of what I do. Residential, it's seller beware, seller beware, seller beware, seller beware, because if you don't disclose, the buyer can come back after you with this, that, or the other thing, and then we end up getting wrapped up in the middle with an ethics charge or something, and our whole day goes sideways trying to work our way out of that. Whereas in commercial, it's buyer beware. And the reason being is the commercial buildings are bought and sold by people that have never been in the state or never seen the building. So buyer better do your job before you buy the building or the investment. So again, sellers, disclose, disclose, disclose. Just remember those 3 words, and it just makes it better for everybody. Okay. So I'm not going to go through every line here. Just make sure you've read through this form and give it to the people. Tell them you need that back as quick as possible so you can get the house listed. Make a copy of it, put it up in the supplements when you go onto the MLS so people can just download it, or the other agents can download it. And they've got a copy of that to share with their clients before they go out to the house. Make sure there's a hard copy of that in the house. And you can put it in a book and say, please do not remove this book. Okay. Any questions on this one? And then we get to talk about radon again. And then the listing contract. Okay, we're going to slow down here a little bit. I know we're running over, but 54 forms is 54 sheets, hard to go through quick. This is pretty straightforward. The top part of this contract starts on and ends on the contract date. Seller offers the price for this price, following terms. Thing I's put in there is cash, conventional, FHA, DVA, or terms acceptable to the seller. So maybe the
Hey,
seller,
Tim.
yeah,
You can go as long as you want. It's just
Okay.
up to everyone else. So
Okay.
even if people get off, you can keep going through the whole thing.
okay, sounds good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, listing agreement here, seller gives broker the exclusive right to sell the property. In exchange, here's all the different things we can do. Typically, we like to leave all the wording that's in there. Now I've had some sellers go, well, Tim, I don't want to see this, or I don't want to see that. And if that's the case, you want to get to your broker right away. And just explain to them what I do is, look, I'm representing you, and I'm representing only you to start out with. And I'm going to do everything I can in your power to get you the best deal and make sure the deal gets done correctly so there's no problems after the closing. So this thing is just a seamless transaction. Then it goes down in here, talk about IDX sites. That's what we use to give the information to us. And I explain people how this works too, okay? Because you get people that are really techie or have questions, you go, I put all the information into this database here, and then this database feeds it out to all the other companies, the Adinas, the Caldwells, the Remaxes, the Weicherts, the Redfins, and the Zillows. And each one of those companies takes that information, interprets it in a different way, or presents it in a different way. I don't have control over that. That's just the way the MLS works today. So even if I make a change in the central database, again, it can take a while for all these other virtual sites to update their information, depending on how often they pull out of there. So a virtual office website, we usually check, yes, we want you to put your information out there. That's how that works. So listing display on the internet, we talked about that, yes. Listing address, you want to know where that is. Typically, we check the boxes for automatic valuation as no, and comments by other people, typically check that as no. But again, like I said before, with Facebook and all these other sites that are out there, control over that is kind of hard at times. Listed for lease, if you're going to rent a property, then you would check that box and say we can list it for lease or sale. And then there's more ways to put it into the MLS. But typically, we do this. Seller's obligations. Again, seller's obligations is to tell us what's going on with the house. And 99% of the time, if there's a problem in the sale of the house, it's with water, either coming through the roof or coming through the basement. That's just the way it works. Occasionally, you can run into an electrical problem where some breaker trips randomly, but 99% of the time, you're going to get caught up in water intrusion problems. So just make sure if there's a water intrusion problem, the seller tells you about that so you can deal with it up front, or get it fixed, or know about it so you can disclose it. Access to the property, we do that through different ways. Recording on the property, seller understands statute prohibits the oral communications without consent of least one of the two parties to the communication. So, with all the technology these days, they got hidden cameras in the house, figure they do. Is Alexa listening when you're walking through the kitchen? Might be, going back to that. So just be careful when you're in the house, the things you say as the realtor. Now, what your clients say about the house and their house, that's up to them. But you as a realtor got to be at a very high, very professional standard when you're showing houses these days. Seller's content to license, seller's providing content excluding but not limited to any photos. So, seller's got some pictures or some summer pictures if you're listing it in the winter, or winter pictures when you're listing in the summer to show how nice the sliding hill is down back. You want to talk to them about that. Compensation, typically I don't charge a retainer fee. Some people do. And when it comes to broker commission, whatever you've negotiated with the seller, what I can tell you is the office expects you to pay out 2.7% to the MLS, through the MLS. So in compensation, they always ask if that's negotiable. I just say, here it is, and what you get for your, for Keller Williams or the largest company, and just have your sales pitch ready to go, because if they start beating you up on commission, you got to have your pitch ready to go. So I just say, here's what the commission is, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, that, the other thing. And then I quickly just move off it. I don't dwell on commission or act like I'm getting overpaid for the services that we provide. Okay. In addition, listing contract, there's ways you can get paid. If they take the property off the market, if they're reading it, you can really get paid if you want to go after them and you're that kind of agent, if they remove the property when it's out of contract. I typically say, if I'm not doing the job for you, you have the right to fire me, and then we both go on about our happy days. Because you don't want to work with a client that ain't happy with you anyway, typically. It just makes for a long day and a long listing. As they call you 4 times a day, what'd you do today for me? So that's how you want to run your business. I choose not to run mine like that. So I just say, yep, this ain't working out. And I have canceled listings. I've said, this just ain't working out for you or for me for the best of this. So let's just move on and you can list with another agent. Compensation disclosure, line 147. Yes, we are going to share compensation with the other brokers in town. That's where you put your 2.7% in that the office likes to see. And closing services, we've got a lot of really good title companies. Make sure if you do recommend a title company that you say, we've got 2 or 3 good ones that we work with. Here's this one, they're located here, they're very convenient. This one may do this for you, but kind of give them an option. Just don't say, yeah, here's the title company I use. Because you got to be careful about that they have an option. But if they direct you to arrange for a qualified closing agent, then go ahead. Otherwise, they can arrange for their own if they want to. And you talk about the additional cost. That goes back to the estimate of proceeds forms that you've kind of, that you'll go over with them, in this whole process. Probably you want to go through the listing contract first, and then you hit the estimate of proceeds later on. Are they a foreign buyer or not? Agency representation, we talked about a little bit, dual agency. When you talk about agency, and again, I use that kind of referee thing when it gets to dual agency, because people say, well, aren't you doing this or that? I go, no, I'm still going to make sure that the deal gets done correctly and everybody goes home happy and things are done correctly, whether it's with just me or with another agent from my office. We have to represent our clients in a certain way when you get into dual agency, and that's for the buyer and the seller. Just make sure the deal gets done correctly. Again, you can work with other potential sellers, other potential buyers, fiduciary duties, keep things confidential, indemnification, fair housing notice, we all know about that. And again, all the contracts they sign are the entire agreement. And whether that's additional amendments or addendum or whatever there is to the contract. And here's the good day. This is when you get them to sign the listing agreement, and you sign it and make sure you get all the signatures and stuff. So the admin at the office doesn't write you every time they write like they do me. So I typically find something that they'd like to see me fill out. And again, we talked about wire transfer stuff. We haven't really talked about that, but with all the shenanigans today, you want to make sure clients only talk to you about their bank account funds and transferring, closing stuff. So just make sure you go over that because there is a lot of shenanigans out there. Then we get to talk about radon again and lead-based paint. we've talked about that before. And anything built before 1978, you get a lead-based disclosure on. Even if the place has been totally gutted and redone, I still have them fill out a lead-based paint if it was built before 78. And again, it's pretty straightforward. Seller has no knowledge. Buyer acknowledges that they can either say, yep, I accept the seller's thing, or, you know, I want to have a, you know, someone come in and do, you know, a test for lead-based paint. And you let the, you know, make sure the seller fills it all correctly. And if you're representing the buyer, I just give their buyer the options in the pamphlet that they need. And where else we got here? Arbitration. Get through this. So 2 ways you can go to settle a problem after closing. You can go to arbitration and say, look, seller, you didn't disclose the issue of probably a water leak, because again, that's 99% of the problems in these situations. And you can sit down and arbitration. There is a fee for arbitration. And you sit down in front of a panel of real estate experts, and they listen to Mr. Seller and they listen to Mr. Buyer about the situation. And then they say, Mr. Agent, what do you know about the problem? Buyer agent, what did you know? Seller agent, what did you know? And you will get in the middle of these arbitration type systems, because you're the agent in charge, and they're going to want to know what you know and when you knew it, if there was an issue. Okay, to see who's at fault here. Was it really the seller at fault, or was the agent didn't disclose like he should have? Did he advise the seller right? Was the buyer aware of the problem? Did the buyer's agent see the problem? But again, in arbitration, there is a fee, but you go up in front of a real estate panel. Now, it's Keller Williams policy that we get this signed for arbitration, even though if everybody declines it, your seller or your buyer declines it, or the other side declines it, we still have to bring it in, because I believe our errors and omission insurance want to see that this form was signed. That's one of our contingencies in our errors and omissions. So we do want to get this filled out. We do want to get it signed, even if they decline it. Okay, very important in the residential stuff. And that is 54 pages of information I know that you have burned into your memory cells completely. Okay. And again, I'm here, guys, as the associate broker. So if you run into questions or you run into a situation, you go, I think it's this way, I'm pretty sure it's this way, but I'm going to call Tim. Please do. Give me a call, shoot me an email, text me. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can, because I know you're in the middle of a situation, and I like to help folks out that way. So if you got a question on one of the contracts, or you're in the middle of negotiations and you go, well, they want to do this, that, and everything, and it just don't sound right or feel right, that kind of thing, your spidey senses are going off a little bit, give me a call. I read through contracts all the time. I'm not an attorney by any means. I don't give legal opinion. I ask questions. I give, give you options. Here's, 2 or 3 different things you could do. Here's what I've done in the past. Here's office policy towards these kind of things. And if it gets out of my league, then I call our attorney up and I say, hey, here's what we got. Here's kind of the options. Do you agree? Or is there something else we should be looking at for this particular situation? Because they're all different. The properties are all different. The personalities of the people we deal with are all different. And again, my goal here in the office is to make sure we get things done right for you guys, and you have a good day out there. So any other questions on these forms? If you want, I'll be happy to email this packet out to you guys so you have it. So if you want to go over it again and mark some stuff up, I'll be glad to get back to you. Otherwise, that's
Hey,
it
Tim,
for today. Yeah.
One thing on the arbitration, so that panel or that board, whoever it is, they issue a decision, and that's it, right?
Yeah,
It's
once you sign arbitration, whatever decision that panel of real estate experts, and that's what they are, that is a binding legal decision to solve that problem.
And if you don't sign arbitration, then you're talking lawyers.
Yeah,
and
you're talking
court
hiring your attorney to talk to somebody to bring some kind of action against somebody.
Okay,
And so
thanks.
either way, arbitration typically turns out to be a little more cost effective, and you are dealing with a panel of people that have years and years and years of experience in the business to sort it out and figure out what needs to be done.
Was this recorded?
Yes, I believe it was.
Great.
Okay, I got one more question then on the arbitration. Could that panel rule that the seller, or wait, could they issue a, monitor, you got to fix that. You got to fix you got to put in drain tiles.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
could.
you could come in and they could say, yes, Mr. Seller, you are, you're liable for that problem.
Okay.
And whether Mr. Seller agrees, he can get the judgment from them, whether they, whether the seller wants to follow through or not, then you may have to go to another level. But anyway, the panel would give the decision on, who is at fault and what needs to get done.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. You good then, Bobby? Okay. Well, thank you guys. Any questions, get hold of me.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep, see you.